Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I am, of course, your host, Armando Venditti. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. In this episode, as I look outside and I see the rain coming down, it was really coming down hard a few minutes ago. I'm going to be doing another installment of In the Spotlight. Now, as I said in the previous episode featuring Pat Metheny, I'm going to be covering an artist, and I'm going to be covering albums that maybe people really haven't heard of, or albums that I like and I just want to feature them and talk about them. So in this episode, I'm going to be covering an artist that people may not know readily by name, but you do know his voice. One Daniel Earl Hartman, otherwise known as Dan Hartman, born December 8th, 1950 in West Hanover Township in Pennsylvania. Uh, Dan Hartman is a multi-instrumentalist, plays bass, keyboards, piano, fantastic vocalist, has a really good range, has a wide vocal range. Um, Started his career in 1963, was in a started out as a psychedelic band, psychedelic rock band called The Legends. They then transitioned into a hard rock band in the early 70s. Dan Hartman went on to hook up with Edgar and Johnny Winter, and he joined the Edgar Winter group in the 70s, early 70s, and was featured as lead vocalist on the track Free Ride, and went on to help produce some of Edgar Winter's tracks on his albums. He then left the Edgar Winter group to start a solo career. Released his debut album Images in 1976 on Blue Sky Records. But the albums were licensed to different record companies around the world. He then released his second album, Instant Replay, in 1978. Now, I remember Instant Replay as a kid. I was 8 years old. And, growing up with three sisters in the house, music was always on. I mean, it didn't matter what genre, AM, AM top 40, dance, or otherwise known as disco, rock, country, folk, it didn't matter. Instant Replay was a slamming track. It reached number 29 in the Billboard charts. And, he basically took off in terms of his popularity. Had another album out called Relight My Fire, along with the single. Then in the 80s, he released a single from the Streets of Fire soundtrack called I Can Dream About You, and had another track on there called We Are the Young. Then signed a deal with MCA Records through the popularity of I Can Dream About You. Did an album, for MCA called White Boy. MCA refused to release it because it didn't sound like I Can Dream About You, and they chose to shelve the record. Dan Hartman went on to say that, he got extremely frustrated with MCA because, according to him, they expected him to write 10 songs that sounded exactly like I Can Dream About You, and he was not going to do that. After that, he did an about face music wise. He started reading up on music and its effect on the mind, on the subconscious, and how music can manipulate your mind in good and negative ways, whether it can make you depressed, happy, sad. And he started to work on what would be his last recorded album, called New Green, Clear Blue. Now, No Green, Clear Blue is basically an ambient new age album, all instrumental, released on Private Music, produced by Dan Hartman, engineered by Dan Hartman. He basically took the reins and did everything on this album. The and then, wow, how can I put this? As you can tell from the album cover, it's a shot of somebody diving into a pool and going for a swim. This album, and I got to tell you, the inspiration for this album, he had said, was Harold Budd, Brian Eno, and Vangelis. And when you hear this album, there are 11 songs. It's quite a lengthy album. It's just under 60 minutes. The tracks are very sprawling, very, I was going to say complex, but very, complex is not the word, very textured, very layered, very sophisticated. This is not your typical verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus, fade out. Even for instrumental, this is very sophisticated music. And in talking about the album, he wanted to create a pattern of music on these tracks that allowed the listener to open up their subconscious and just let the music take you wherever it was going to take you. It didn't matter where it was going to take you, just that it was going to, he wanted the music to affect the listener, however it was going to affect the listener. And as he said in interviews about this album, music is not always a positive experience. It can bring up bad memories. It can bring up sad memories, but it can also bring up, again, happy memories. It can take you on, sorry, I just got distracted. It can take you on a journey. And you may not know where you end up. Okay. That is what he wanted. He did not want you to listen to the album and know exactly how it was going to end. Okay. When I listen to this album, there are 11 cuts. Okay. And as a side note, when I started buying albums off of Discogs, this was the very first CD that I bought off of Discogs back in 2017. Okay. When I listened to this album today, because I knew I wanted to feature it, but I wanted to listen to it again just to see where, just to get a bit more in depth about it and talk about it. To me, this album, again, like Secret Story, is an album about a journey, about a person's journey through life. The good turns, the bad turns, the emotional ups and downs that happens with people when you go through your life. And again, you may not like where you end up, but at least where you end up is basically where you're supposed to be at the end of it. Songs of note on the album, again, are Sign of Relief that starts the album. Sigh of Relief. Sorry, not sign. Sigh of Relief. My apologies. Second track on the album, Romance. Fantastic. All these tracks are literally just keyboard textures, rich, full soundscapes. And it does remind me of Brian Eno. But The difference is there are melodies that come up in these tracks, whereas Brian Eno is basically, not basically, I don't mean to degrade Brian Eno, but Brian Eno is much more ambient and um, uh, often left field. This is more linear. These tracks are more linear, A to B, C to D. After Romance comes the title track, New Green, Clear Blue. Fantastic piece of work. The Swan is next, and the Swan is more, I'd say it's a more darker track, more synth stabs, um, more than anything else. Other tracks of note on this album are Alpha Waves, Adrift in the Red Sky is another beautiful track. I failed to mention that one. Hope of No End is another beautiful atmospheric piece of work. And the last track on the album, track 11, Home, is, for me, when I think of it or when I hear it, basically it makes sense to me because it sounds to me like the individual, whoever they are, but in this case, Dan Hartman, has come to the realization that he has lived his life and he is home where he belongs, and he has made peace with his life and what has happened in his life, and he is ready for his next journey. Dan Hartman passed away from AIDS on March 22nd, 1994. So this being his last album is very fitting. It is a beautiful document and a beautiful record as to how the man lived his life. And he basically was an artist that did whatever he wanted to do musically. If you tried to pigeonhole him, he went the other way on purpose because he never wanted to be stagnant. He always wanted to evolve and change and move forward. So this album, as his last release, is a perfect ending to his recording career. Please check this album out. It is, again, the album New Green, Clear Blue. It is on Private Music. It is released it's on Amazon. It's on Discogs. And it's also on eBay, I would imagine. I paid $50 for it on Discogs. It is now on Amazon for $40. And when I first saw this on Amazon, it was $90. So it went down in price. But believe me, if you want to try something new, you want to try something out of the ordinary, please give this album a shot. Okay? It's perfect music for if you're in a mood, you just want to sit back, turn off the lights, and just go. I've said before, music is auditory. It's for the ears. It's not always for the eyes. It's not always visual. And I think a lot of music suffers in the respect that people these days, and I'm guilty of it too, people do depend on the visual to get them through something. Put this on, turn off the lights, let the only light, like I said before, let the only light that comes out in the room, that's in the room, come from your stereo, and just basically just lay in the dark and just go for a ride for just 60 minutes. You have nothing to lose. And one thing you have to gain is discovering new music. What's wrong with that? You know what I mean? So that comes brings me to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys like the video. Please leave your comments down below if you know of Dan Hartman. If you've heard Free Ride, you know who I'm talking about now. Please check him out. Check out this album and let me know what you think down below. Do you like him? Do you not like him? Do you like Edgar Winter? Do you not like Edgar Winter? Um, you know, music. The one thing about music is that for me is that it's always new. It's always um it's always a mystery. You never know what you're going to be listening to that you like next. So use this as an excuse or as a reason to try something new. Okay, you can listen to this album also on YouTube. Okay, so please, hopefully, you've discovered something new today and you like it. So please click like and subscribe and click the notification bell for any new content that I've got coming up. And yeah, I will be back with another video. Hopefully, I'll be doing some more of these in the spotlight videos. I kind of like this idea. I may be doing some more. Who knows? Anyways, that's it for now. Please look after yourselves and one another, and I will be talking to you very soon. Bye for now.